This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're starting recording here. Chad, are you and Christy ready to go from a technical standpoint?
I have no audio of Chad or Christy.
I don't either.
Yeah, I'm good. You've got audio of me. You won't have audio of Gail or Christy at the moment. You may have Gail. She'll just have to speak up when needed and take herself off of mute. But we're ready to go technically.
Okay, sounds like we're all ready to go. Again, if you called in, just go ahead and put the app on mute, and we will have a chance for everyone to speak during the public hearings, as we do every year. And then also there'll be a visitor section for the ordinance and resolutions part, before the ordinance and resolutions part as well. Brought my portable gavel with me. So with that, we will now begin our May 20th, 2020 City Council special meeting. This special meeting is to do with our yearly budget process. And to start out with, I'd like to see if anyone has a declaration of any conflict of interest at this time.
No.
No.
This is Dan. I question every year when we get to the workers' comp for volunteers. Where does that lie as CERT members?
We do have that conversation each year. Chad, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so now, Carrie, are you officially a CERT member?
I've been a CERT member ever since I joined and I took the class.
Okay, so to move forward, what we'll do is you will not be able to vote on that particular issue until we are down to at least a quorum of people who can. So administratively, I'm going to take care of that with Peter. We'll be able to add that portion on. So we'll just make a small adjustment as we get to that portion of the agenda.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And I will tell you right now, I will call the, what is it, the Ethics Commission and find out if being 3 members of CERT, can we vote on something with CERT, because they're very lenient with what they allow to happen if you contact them.
That's a good call, Carrie. I think that'd be a great idea.
And I'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's probably a moot point until one of us get injured as a CERT member.
That may be. But
if we're both voting budget,
I don't want to make this a long meeting, but if you extend workman's comp to volunteers, are we saying that it goes to the counselors because we're volunteers that are elected, or should I just phrase the question of volunteers who may be council members and part of CERT?
I think both ways would be appropriate. That way we can take it from both different directions. And they're very good about helping us out. I know you've made a couple of phone calls and been happy with the outcome of the ethics committee.
Okay.
But again, it has to be referenced to your work as a counselor. So if you bring a muscle when you're not working as a counselor, that doesn't count for workers' comp. It's only when you bend over at the council meeting and, slip a disc, then that would count towards workers' comp.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that. I just want to know if we're voting on extending workman's comp for volunteers does it include, or are we excluded by virtue of the fact that we're elected? And I will make that specific when I ask the question.
Okay. And that being said, I'm comfortable tonight going with the way that it's written. I think we'll be fine, even though you are counselors, you should be able to vote on the cert portion of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else with declaration of conflict of interest? I have none at this time. Okay.
No.
Okay. So next up, we have a short message from our city administrator, Chad Sweet.
Thank you very much, Mayor, councilors, and guests. Just to clarify a few things, I wanted to make sure that everybody on the call knows that our tax rates remain the same as they have for over 20 years. Our permanent rate is $1.0053 per thousand. And for the road district, it's 0.0602 cents per thousand, or excuse me, 6.02 cents per thousand for the road district. And that has not changed. To give kind of just a little bit of background with where I came up with the budget, in the general fund, as we'll see, we've anticipated resources of $2,004,500 from various sources. While revenue is increasing, our tax rates stay the same. We're not raising taxes on anybody in Gearhart in regards to the general fund. I anticipate a pretty conservative increase based on a few things. House assessed value or home assessed value and building and property assessed value is going to steadily increase this next year, probably at about 2 to 2.5%. Building is strong right now. It seems to keep pumping along, and which may decline over time, but for this next year, I'm not seeing a very large decline at this point. But we were still conservative in our estimates. Other resources are steady, and we have more homes being built. We have more people moving into town and living in our community. I don't have the census, but that's what it feels like. I have anticipated a decrease in short-term vacation rental tax, and we're looking at, from $375,000 this year to about $250,000 this year, with a $125,000 decline. And depending on when things open up, it may be more, it may be less, but I think that that's a good estimate. And that is because of COVID-19, which will drive less occupancy. And possibly in the future, for the next year or so, we might see some lower average rates in the hotels, short-term vacation rentals, and condos. So we'll keep an eye on that. But all in all, I'm very positive about this budget. Gearhart is very lucky. We're in a very special place. We run with a yearly surplus every year. Our revenues are greater than our expenses, and they have been for a long time. Over the last 4 years, we've added about $990,000 to our reserve accounts.
Wow.
And as of June 31st, we'll have approximately, and I say approximately because we'll see how kind of things shake out, 2.218 million in the bank and in various reserves, which also includes the water reserve fund. And this year, my calculations are, well, this year we'll add $180,000 to the reserve funds. And as you see, we're being a little conservative with that, adding a little bit less to the reserve funds this year, just to make sure we have enough cash to move forward with this upcoming unknown year. But I'm very happy with our budget. I'm very thankful for my staff for helping out with this, and nice work, Gearhart. That's my update, man.
Well, thank you, Chad. It's nice to know that we have revenue coming in, more revenue coming in than expenses going out. I think that's shows that Gearhart is good at controlling expenses, and Chad has been a good budget officer and being fiscally responsible with the assistance of the council to be able to create that budget surplus every year. So we appreciate that, Chad. Thank you very much for the report. Moving right along, we are going to go to our public hearings, and there'll actually be 3 different small public hearings. Folks will get a chance to weigh in on either of those or all 3 of those, if they want to. And just a few things with speaking. We're doing a 3-minute time limit. Chad has a clock, I believe, right behind him, so I can kind of see it. And so folks will be able to speak as a proponent or an opponent of each of these public hearings, or neutral. And like I said before, we'll also have a visitor section prior to ordinances and resolutions. Now, anything that we just ask that if anyone does want to speak, to obviously give their name and address for the record, and also please make sure it pertains to this year's budget as well. There will be a city council meeting, of course, next month. If you have any other comments about any other city business or anything else, I believe that's on June 3rd is our next council meeting, Chad?
Wednesday, June 3rd, Mayor.
Okay, so yes, please keep comments to our budget process. Okay, so to start out with, I'd like to open the public hearing of possible uses of state revenue sharing funds. So we're going to open the public hearing, and this is for first reading of ordinance 925, an ordinance that the city of Gearhart hereby elects to receive state revenues. Chad, do you want to add anything before I ask for public input?
Sure, Mayor. The state revenue sharing funds come in from the state as far as taxes that are paid by Oregonians. The Budget Committee and the City Council in the Budget Committee meeting held a hearing about the sharing of those and divvied those funds up between different nonprofit organizations. That's all I have.
Okay. First, are there any opponents of ordinance 925 that would like to speak? Okay. Anyone a proponent of ordinance 925 that would like to speak? Anybody neutral that would like to speak or comment? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I
make a motion. Go ahead, Kerry.
I move we close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Smith to close the public hearing. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, that's Councilor Jesse with a second. And anyone, any discussion at all?
One question, just a point of clarification. We do have to declare an emergency on this?
For the motion to pass the ordinance, yes.
Hold on that just a moment. That's a very good question, Glenn. I want to check on that. Matt, I'll be right back.
Real quick, guys, Chad's going to check on that, but are you referring to reading twice by title only and declaring an emergency to pass it right now?
Yeah, it's the last 4 words of the ordinance title.
That's a good catch, Lynham, and I would like to take out "and declaring an emergency" because we will be holding a meeting again next week on the 27th to do a second reading. So the motion that I would recommend would be ordinance number 925 read once by title only.
We haven't gotten that far, though.
It would be as amended.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's 9:25.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion on the table that the last 4 words "and declaring an emergency" be deleted.
I second.
Yeah, second.
Okay, and so we have an amendment by Councilor Cochran. We have a second by Councilor Smith. Any discussion? Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll read this once by title only. This is ordinance number 925, an ordinance declaring that the city of Deer Heart hereby elects to receive state revenues. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought what we just voted on was closing the public hearing. Don't we have to actually then make a motion to adopt 925?
Yeah, you're actually right. You're actually right. So let's do this. Let's make a motion to close the public hearing first, and then let's redo the motion on ordinance 925. We'll make sure this is clean, okay? And when you make the motion for ordinance 925, you can include in the amendment that Councilor Cochran put in. So do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing on 9:25.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, public hearing closed. Now we would like a motion for a first reading of ordinance 925.
I make a motion that we read 9:25 as amended for one reading. First reading, excuse me.
Second
All right.
that.
Do we hear a second by Councilor Jesse? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved officially.
Okay, and then I will read it once by title only. Thank you, folks, for bearing with us. That was a good shakeout. So here we have ordinance number 925, an ordinance declaring that the city of Deer Heart hereby elects to receive state revenues. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving right along, you're now going to open public hearing for 2021 City of Deer Heart budget. And this involves first reading of ordinance 926. Chad, would you like to speak a little on that?
This is the budget that was passed on to the City Council by the Budget Committee and was amended as noted in the approved by Budget Committee line on the detailed expenditures and revenues list. I would recommend that we go forward with the ordinance as it is.
Okay. So this is the public testimony part. Would anyone like to speak as a opponent of ordinance 926? Okay. Would anyone like to speak as a proponent of ordinance 926? And finally, would anyone like to speak or comment as a neutral party? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing on 9:26.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay. Public hearing officially closed. And next up, do we hear a motion to the first reading of ordinance 926?
I make a motion
Okay.
that we.
Go ahead, Dan.
I make a motion that we adopt 926 and read it once this evening as a first reading.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, Polina got it first, so Polina gets the second.
Good for you.
Just beat you, Carrie.
You win, Paulina.
Win. And any discussion before we ask for a vote?
Yes, I've got a discussion I want.
Yes, Councilor Smith, please go ahead.
A question about our lieutenant. According to the rural fire department, their increase in money to Gerhard is $6,000, and we have an increase of because of his bump in service, $4,000 difference. And why are they not paying for that, since they are the ones paying for our lieutenant? My question is, where's the money?
That's a good question, Councilor Smith. We did increase the rates on, so to clarify, the Rural Fire Protection District had decided to pay for that position entirely a couple of years ago.
Right.
And so they are paying that through the Rural Fire Protection District funds that they pay through the taxes out in that area, outside of the city of Deerheart within our response rate. We are increasing their rate to take care of a part of the salary change. So just double check. Rural Fire Protection District, excuse me. We're increasing, like you said, just approximately about $6,000 of the $10,000 that we anticipate this costing. But we have a 3-year agreement with them to set the rates as they are. So the city of Deerheart is going to make up the additional approximate $4,000 for that increase in that position.
So they are going to increase their payment to us after 3 years?
I think we are ready next year for a new agreement with the Rural Fire Protection District. So next year we will probably increase their rates on them enough to cover that difference, at least. We'll get into negotiations with them next year.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good catch, Carrie. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that. Any other discussion or questions before we ask for a vote? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, councilors and visitors, ordinance number 926. This is an ordinance imposing taxes for the city of Deerheart as provided in the adopted budget at the rate of $1.0053 per thousand assessed. Value for the city of Deerheart operations and in the amount of $584,000. And that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for tax year 2020-2021 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the city of Deerheart. The following allocation and categorization subject to the limits of the section 11B, article 11 of the Oregon Constitution make up the above aggregate levy, which is the general fund at $1.0053 per thousand, and excluded from those limitations are the debt service fund of $788,058.76. Thank you, Mayor and Councilor.
Guess what, folks? We have another public hearing. And I would like to open that public hearing for Deerheart Road District budget. So the public hearing is now open. And this is for ordinance 927. Chad?
This is a separate fund. Thank you, Mayor and councilors and visitors. This is a separate fund to the city of Deerheart. It's a separate tax that the folks and residents and citizens of Gearhart pay. And this is a separate fund for road and repair within Gearhart. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak publicly as an opponent of Ordinance 927? Okay. Would anyone like to speak publicly as a proponent of Ordinance 927? Okay. Anybody neutral? Okay. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we go ahead.
No, you go,
Go
Carrie.
ahead, Rita.
I move that we close the public hearing on this ordinance 927.
Okay, do we hear a second?
I second.
Well, no discussion. Anybody, any discussion before closing the public hearing? Probably not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, public hearing is now closed. So with that, I'd love to entertain a motion to the first reading of ordinance 927.
Make a motion that we adopt by first reading ordinance number 927.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Councillor Cockrum and a second by Councillor Fackrell. And do we have any discussion?
I have a question is, since this is a budget process and everything, can we take 927 by one reading only, or do we have to have two readings? The one next week also to adopt it instead of one reading adoption.
So you're saying read it twice by title only and declare an emergency versus what we're doing with the other ones, which is reading them once this week, once next week, and then 30 days later it passes?
No, I'm asking it. Paulina said read it once by title only and adopt it. And now I'm saying, don't we have to read it twice by title only without declaring an emergency? And maybe I misunderstood her, but that's the way I heard it.
I don't want to declare an emergency.
Yeah.
I want us to approve the first reading.
Yep. That's all we're doing is doing the first reading, right? That's what your
Okay,
motion stated as well.
Maybe I misunderstood.
I believe she distinguished the first reading only.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I heard as well. Okay, so we have a motion by Councillor Cockrum to read for the first reading of adopting ordinance 927 and doing the first reading, and then we have a second by Councillor Fackrell. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Chad? You'll have to unmute yourself, Chad.
Well, we try lip reading, but thank you very much. So we have ordinance number 927. An ordinance hereby imposing taxes for the Gearhart Road District is provided for in the adopted budget at the rate of 6.02 cents per thousand of assessed value for road district repair, and that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for tax year 2020, 2021 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district. The following allocation and categorization, subject to the limits of Section 11B, Article 11 of the Oregon Constitution, make up the above aggregate levy. Subject to and excluded from general government delimitation is 6.02 per thousand. The total rate is 6.02 per thousand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes our 3 public hearing portions of tonight's special meeting. Next up on the agenda, we have a visitor section. Again, this will be a 3-minute visitor section. Visitors can speak on the topics on the agenda for this evening. And we just ask that please give your name and mailing address for the record as well. Would anyone like to speak or comment? Okay. Looks like nobody wants to speak or comment. Thank you for listening in. Just a reminder too, we'll at our next city council meeting on June 3rd, we'll have a regular visitor section as well. Next up, we have ordinances and resolutions. And number one is on the agenda, ordinance 928. Chad, would you like to talk about ordinance 928? After you unmute yourself.
No, this
Double
this is
bogey.
we'll get there, buddy. Thank you. Ordinance number 928 fixes the compensation of the following officers: the attorney, the police chief of police, fire chief, auditor, treasurer, judge, and repeals all the priors. So in our charter, this needs to be a separate ordinance so that the city councilors and public are aware of these changes. I would recommend that we read ordinance 928 once by title only and as written.
First reading. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion of adopting ordinance 928 with the first reading.
I move that we adopt the ordinance 928 with one reading.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
Clarification, it's a first reading.
Correct. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. This is ordinance 928, an ordinance fixing compensation of the following officers of the city of Deerheart: to the attorney, chief of police, fire chief, auditor, treasurer, and judge, and repealing all prior ordinances fixing the compensation of these officers of the city of Deerheart. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And next up, we have resolution number 948, a resolution for workers' comp for volunteers. Chad, would you like to speak about that again?
Sure. This is the resolution that will cover our volunteers with an assumed monthly wage if something was to happen to them in case of an accident. I would recommend that we adopt resolution 948 tonight.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion on adopting resolution 948.
I move that we adopt a resolution 948.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we've got a second. Any discussion?
This is Dan. I thought we determined that this was going to be handled internally by Chad and the city attorney.
This is going to move forward your adoption. We're going to handle this in regards to the city council with the attorney.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to the end of our session. would anyone like to entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Do we
I
hear?
second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, meeting is officially adjourned. I want to thank everyone for participating once again. Our next scheduled, actually, we're going to have a special meeting again next week, 27th. Is that correct, Chad?
That's correct.
Okay, and then that will be to do with budget again, second readings, and then we'll have our regular city council meeting on June 3rd. Want to thank everyone for coming again, and please stay safe out there. And
I'm staying safe in my house.
Yeah, stay home, stay safe.
I'm safe.
good idea, guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to everybody next Thursday, or next Wednesday.
Okay, bye.